Hi everyone, I'm Marta
And I'm Josiah.
and we are PhD candidate in sociology at UNLV, the University of Nevada, Las Vegas. I study leisure, sociology of leisure and tourism mainly, and Josiah studies sociology of religion and especially the intersection between religion and media. And as you probably understood from my accent, I'm Italian, and we were talking together about what happened in Venice today, also because we are married. So, welcome in our house. And we were talking about what happened today in Venice. Unfortunately, there was a severe flood in Venice, like it didn't happen in years and years. And we were chatting with Josiah, having some sociological thoughts about it, and we thought, why don't we make a video? So to share with you all our thoughts, and we hope to have some feedback. So, and I really like in my studies, for example, I teach sociology of leisure and tourism with my students too. I love to focus on the concept of collective memory and in terms of cultural heritage. I usually think of the word heritage as coming from the word inheritance. So something that our great grandparents left us as an inheritance. And when we talk about collective memory, of course, we are not talking only about individual memory, but the entire memory of an entire society. And this really relates to what happened today in Venice, because unfortunately, the famous Basilica of St. Mark's, the famous church, got damaged with amazing Byzantine art and art masterpieces, and got some damages that probably will last forever. So really, we were reflecting on what happens when this kind of collective memory gets damaged. Also because I think that the mayor of Venice today said this is not only something that hurt the identity of people from Venice, the locals, but it's something that concerns the entire state of Italy. But talking with Josiah, that actually is the sociology of religion expert here, I really realized that this goes much further than just Venice or Italy. This is a sort of collective memory, this Basilica of St. Mark's, of a big part of the world, right, Josiah?
That's right. And I think when we think about collective memory, it's important to look in a more abstract way at Venice as a place of collective memory for the world in terms of its importance as a sort of Western symbol and as a place of tourism where we're all sort of familiar with the culture there. But I think beyond that, it's important also to think about kind of the specific material culture that exists in Venice when we think about St. Mark's Cathedral and the relics of St. Mark, for example, that were transported from Alexandria to Venice and kind of paved the way for establishing the identity of Venice, which was a place before that didn't have the kind of long-standing tradition and heritage that a place like Rome might have had. So the idea of the material culture and relics as a kind of tool for establishing the city itself. And again, looking beyond Italy and Western culture and understanding how that it plays an important role to this day in Coptic and Eastern Orthodox culture. As I said, as the relics were transported from Alexandria to Venice. And also, if you look at the actual physical space of the cathedral, you will find that on the eastern wall, you see the relics of Saint Mark represented in the mosaics in the position of the Eastern world. So the part of the story where Saint Mark is in the Eastern world, his relics are in the eastern part of the world. Then on the Western wall, you see again the transport of those relics to the Western world in Venice. So again, I think it's important to understand how that these relics sort of represent a convergence of different religious traditions and the material culture of those places, as well as the bronze horses, which are very famous in Venice and sort of represent the city. Those were actually transported from Constantinople as well to sort of add to the status of the city as an important cultural place. So again, when we see the sort of cultural blending from Byzantium and Constantinople, we can see how that again the heritage here goes across cultural boundaries and across religious boundaries, and we can see the importance of that in we recognize the importance of that when this heritage is endangered by flooding, for example.
Yeah, and I was very surprised since I thought that basically as an Italian, as you can imagine, I thought mainly of the Catholic culture, because of course the Catholic religion and Catholic culture, because it's a Catholic basilica. And I was really surprised talking with Josiah as Josiah came with me to Venice, so he's very familiar with the example, how it's not only about Italy in fact, but really this collective memory is part of a big part of the world, even Eastern religion, right? So it's not just Catholic.
Right. That's true. And again, with the effects of the flooding, I think again we're thinking it brings to mind environmental sociology and the effects of climate change, and how that not only does climate change affect people's livelihoods and even people's ability to live, it also can have an effect on cultural heritage, right? And not just Western cultural heritage, but again, in a place like Venice, you can see again this sort of convergence of different Eastern and Western traditions in one place, and the effects that climate change can have on society.
Yeah, and talking about the effects of climate change in society, and not only. For example, also, if we think of the flooding today, we really understand how this environmental phenomenon really have effects on society. For example, like what about all the businesses that are related to the tourism in Venice? What's going on with the local community today? From today, something is gonna change because the tourist attractions in Venice got damaged so much that I'm wondering about small businesses. In fact, today the mayor of Venice talked a lot about the small businesses and the fact that there is the risk that probably they're gonna leave Venice, which is already defined, as you probably know, as a ghost town where locals are living and only tourists are going to that island. It's just an island populated by tourists and not by people from Venice. What about the small business owners that won't have enough funds and money to overcome this tragic moment of the flooding? So literally the effects on society are so many that we can't even think of what's going on today in that area. And of course, talking also about the environment, we cannot help thinking. We were talking about also the example of Assisi, for example, the Basilica of St. Francis that we visited together. And as you probably in the 90s, there was a big earthquake that destroyed part of the Basilica in Assisi with frescoes of Giotto and other famous artists. And again, the mind goes back to those years of the earthquake in Assisi and other earthquakes in Italy that destroyed these very important sites of collective memory, and that thankfully most of the times history of art experts are able to bring back to life, to rebuild. But still, as sociologists, it's so interesting to see how the destruction of heritage sites hurt society, and it's something unique. I mean, again, I'm thinking if those mosaics in the St. Mark's Church Basilica are going to be destroyed forever, it's gonna be a big something that really hurt, not only, again, we were seeing for Italians, but for probably the entire world, also because we love Venice as tourists as much as the locals love Venice because it's their home, right?
Right.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I think with, again, the importance of material culture and materiality in religion is an important thing to remember as well. So again, with the loss of these places and with their destruction, we realize the kind of precariousness of material culture, as well as it's important for religious communities across the world. So again, the precariousness of these places and how that they, again, reach and influence people from across the Eastern world and the Western world.
So now we will see what is very hard now. It just happened. It's still happening in Venice. The flooding is going on. So we don't have enough news to say what's the future is going to be about. But what's important for us, again, as sociologists, is to show that it's not just about too much rain in Venice or tourists has to cancel their flight to Venice because it's impossible to be there now, but there are extremely big consequences for society, from the locals to the tourists to also environmentalists today the mayor of Venice spoke about climate change. Is this the fault of climate change, for example? And also like institutions. So now Italian politicians really need to find a solution, especially because we are talking about society, we are talking about Venice local community, which is already, as you probably heard, in a very difficult situation, because Venice is full of problems related to tourism, over tourism, carrying capacity, cruise ships that don't respect the sustainability standards in the laguna, in the Venice lagoon. So as if it was enough, today they got this flooding. And again, it's a damage for society, it's a damage for local communities, and it's a damage also on the religious side for the collective memory of several religious groups.
Right.
So yeah, we were just chatting at home. We thought, why don't we make a video on such an important topic? So we hope you really enjoyed this little chat, and we will post this on social media, so feel free to comment, and we will probably post also our email, so feel free to contact us if you have any questions, comments, or suggestions. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
We hope to see you soon. Bye.